Okay, I'm streaming. Well, okay, I'm going to advertise this to my other locations
Mm.
as usual.
Saturday.
Saturday in the park for some people.
Mm.
Okay, I need to still send it to Hello Jowry Aguilar Mandujano. I probably butchered some of that name, I'm sorry. Let's see, I still need to send it to a couple places. I labeled this experiencing one's older member's mind because um, we were listening to audio tape 258, right? Kathy's sitting right next to me.
Yes, that was it.
And I didn't make sure that the audio was working right. Let me do that quick. Yeah, it's working good. All right, so well, let me get back to the chat for a second. Warrior of Truth, hey, hey. Jari Aguilar, hello, greetings, happy Saturday. Thank you. It's greetings back to you, and hope you're having a happy Saturday as well. Um, uh, Kathy worked today, but I didn't have to, so I got to lounge around a little bit.
Mm.
But we listened to the
Catch up on
tape,
sleep.
the second half of listening to it from the day before.
Because it was an hour and a half long.
Yeah, hour and a half long. And it's 258. It has to do with um, well, it was recorded on July 3rd, 1987, at the Boulder, up the Boulder Canyon. That was called at the time Northcraft, because we often had two or three crafts, but we had like a Northcraft and a Southcraft frequently. It just seemed to happen that way. Well, I guess, I mean, of course, but as opposed to East and West, right? I was just thinking about that. But there was no East and West craft that I ever heard about. anyway, so in this tape, it was quite the significant tape in a lot of ways that are almost impossible to really give credence to. I mean, give legitimacy. No, what's the word for it? Try to give you compared to what you will hear if you listen to the tape yourself. And but it may be that the next level approves of this way of doing it, even though there's a certain amount of diminishing of it, of its strength, when it's coming through someone like me, writing things on the screen and talking from my experience. But then if it, if it becomes something, it's not about me, of course, because I know that. But those of us who receive their teachings and put them into effect to the best they can, as fast as they can, which is all relative and in degrees, with the intention of giving our all, not even necessarily knowing what that means, but knowing what that is what the end result will be if we keep on going in that direction and desiring to grow in that direction and learning more about that evolutionary kingdom level above human. And it's all the members, of course, that form that physical, many-membered evolutionary kingdom level above human. And the kingdom of God, the kingdom of the heavens. The locations on their spacecrafts that can be as big as planets that humans cannot detect. Or if they can detect them, they can't see what's really happening on the surface or inside of it, because they cloak it. They have different ways of cloaking what humans can see, and they give humans the opportunity for everything. I don't know if anything comes from humans that doesn't come from the next level. Even they provide the negative as well, the negative choices that they know. The fallen angel souls, the space aliens, thought of as Luciferians, souls that have hybridized human equivalent vehicles and have spacecrafts that are either in orbit or inside the Earth or inside the seas, whatever their spacecrafts were capable of doing. They're trying to hide, I think, from humans that could actually do them harm. But getting off the track of that, those individuals that are, they are the ones that the next level allowed to present their case, I guess, their what they want to do to the human kingdom, and that the next level knew that would be the testing ground of that they would be helping those that sought their mind see their way through, see the fallacy in it. A lot of times what we learn is what doesn't work, what doesn't make sense, what doesn't seem true, what doesn't manufacture the results that even I want them to, I think I want them to, I wanted my music to become something that I could live off of, but that didn't happen.
No.
And I don't regret it.
You'd be off gallivanting all over the world.
Maybe I would have died in a car accident after a gig,
Oh my
you know,
God.
because I was so wrecked or something. You never can tell, right? What the path you would take. Um, but anyway, so um, that's what I do. I go through down roads and streams, and some people would call them rabbit holes, but I don't think it's a rabbit hole. I hope that it's going in the upward direction, so it's you could think of it as a little tiny wormhole of radio frequencies. You know, and that's part of what this audio tape 258 is about. It's about experiencing your older member's mind and your older member's presence. And that presence can come in a lot of different ways that we learn from this tape 258. They can come from probably, they didn't talk about this in this tape, but probably all the elements. I mean, all the dimensions of sound and touch and sight is the biggest one, I think, though. But sight also having with it associated thoughts and feelings about those thoughts and the quality of them or where they might be originating from. You know, feeling the next level's goodness. I've experienced both. I couldn't have talked about this before I joined with Tiendo. Because early on, just to tell you a brief experience, there were three of us in a tent. We were partners, and we were all celibate, and we'd been with Tiendo for some months, maybe close to a year at that point, and we were going down for the night, which we had a downtime. They had an organization to it, to everything, and so while we were laying on our sleeping bags on foam pads in this tent, that it took all three of us fine, the size of it. It was comfortable, and one of us, we were talking a little bit. I don't remember about what, but we didn't have any instructions to talk about the past. In fact, we had instructions not to talk about the past because we wanted to, the idea was, the process was getting rid of the old self. Not because you want to get rid of the old self, but because that becomes the avenue, one of the avenues of many, of separating from our humanness. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that right now. But so in the tent, I think it was Steel Odie and someone named Philip. Steel Odie wasn't called Steel Odie then. I don't know if he was called Steel then either. I don't think he was. I forgot what his name was then. But the other person dropped away pretty early on while we were in that camping experience in the 1976 to 1980 approximately. But and Steele already started talking about lower forces, and I don't know what I said about it. I didn't really know much about it, you know, about discarnates or Lucifer or really. And I didn't have much experience with, well, I did have some experiences with things that clued me into there being a unseen world. dimension, if you want to put it that way, of the spirit world within the atmosphere of this planet, however many miles it might go above the planet. But but I but when he said that, and I thought about it, I had this feeling that was terrible. It was like, well, in my mind, it was like a stabbing kind of vibration, very dark. I mean, but not dark in a color way, but dark in a, well, I believe I experienced a sense of what a mind could become that no longer has any next level mind in it anymore because it's been mutated into something else, or it's been actually literally lost because the next level took it away from them. So a soul of that caliber might be like a very dark spot, even though they can be very intellectual. They can, they can appear, they can be leaders of the world. They can be occupying that vibration from those souls, those space alien souls that dropped away out of the next level and that are trying to steer people away from recognizing the real creators of this planet, not the ones that genetically engineered the Adam and Eve story. That's the way that they are talking. They have been talking for a long time about that. The Revelation, the chapter 6 in Genesis talks about the sons of God, having relations with and producing birth with the I forgot the words now of those paragraphs in there. Sons of light against the sons of darkness, and that's all in there. The Nephilim and all that, and the birth of giants, which are giant minds, is actually another way of looking at it. Compared to humans, the space alien souls are giant minds. Not all humans, but the average humans, let me put it that way, because they came from a different civilization, and they actually qualified to become members of the next level in an elementary capacity. And then they went astray by not having conquered, wanting to look to their own mind for their opinions about things and how to do things. And they didn't want to look to somebody else. They felt like they knew enough to where they could. And that came to them by process of, a step at a time. Well, let's go down there and meet. I don't know what the process actually was, in terms of whether they were supposed to be observing as watchers, according to Enoch, and so that was their task, to be an observant, which Tian Do told us that was actually a beginning stage to a task in a lab, to be observers only, and then they could give you things to report and anyway, but they decided that they weren't going to just limit it to that. And that became going further and further off the track. And the next level kept on giving them opportunities to return to that from when they went. But it caused them to actually go against the next level and try to convince people that, in whatever terminology, that this was evil, like Christianity is evil. That's what, there's a lot of people that, I don't know if it's a lot really, but that think that. And because the whole thing was manufactured, they believe, by governments to control people, or from, whatever it is. And it's not like they, and then the fact of that is that you do see that existing in the world through all those religions that all have their hierarchies associated with them and have tons of pomp and ceremony and rituals and all kinds of things. And but that doesn't judge the individuals to say that, because you never know when somebody is doing the best they can in terms of the way the next level judges people. That's why Jesus said, "Judge not, lest you be judged," because the way that you judge others will the way that you will be judged by your by the next level. In other words, we judge ourselves when we have a condemning attitude. Condemning attitude? Condemning attitude.
I was like,
sorry.
what are you?
I never claimed to be a linguist at all. Okay, so being satisfied, I mean, the whole live stream could be about that. You know, I think in some ways, because and I was thinking when I was listening to it again, I was thinking, it's like that movie, I know that song, I can't get that, no satisfaction, from the Rolling Stones, that I used to mimic Mick Jagger in my basement with my little tape recorder and my little plastic microphone, you know, acting like I was Mick Jagger singing that song. And that's the objective, is to not get any satisfaction from the world that compares with the satisfaction you get when you experience the next level in a real kind of way, in a physical kind of way, an emotional kind of way, or a kind of also an intellectual kind of way, but not in an intellectual kind of way as an analysis, but in a recognition of the height of thinking above human that we have been exposed to, we have been given the presence of, and because it's and this tape demonstrates pure goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is pure goodness?
It is a wedding party.
Somebody's getting married in big
no,
tents.
they already got married. He just said,
oh, okay.
We want to say congratulations to the new Mr. and Mrs. something.
Mm-hmm.
I told you it was a DJ.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to share their first dance right now. How sweet.
Yep, they're going to share
I
their first
really
dance.
like that Salvador Dali picture.
Okay, well, since you mentioned the Salvador Dali picture, I guess we should go there next.
Oh, first, there's not much in the chat, so there is one.
Okay, thanks. I'll look at that.
Old School Dave, hello. If you're still here.
Hello, Old School Dave, Warrior of Truth. I could see the video at Salt and Sea going viral. You think so? That'd be funny, wouldn't it?
Make it go viral then. I would love for that to happen, but only for the right reasons. Sawyer did have an Instagram account. Hey, Old School Dave, you're still here. That's good to see. But you didn't seem to get much traction over there, and for some reason we deleted your Instagram account.
True. And we were having some problem with it.
Instagram just, I don't know.
It was I was thinking about something else, but...
That's okay. I took over for just a moment.
Yeah, so thanks.
Please don't judge me too harshly. I'm sick of getting judged.
Yeah, we're... Yeah, see, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Because if you judge Kathy, then you're getting deleted from this stream. No, you're not going to hell. I'm not going to say that.
I don't know what just happened to me. I feel like I got a huge rush of.
Well, Kathy actually
Silliness.
had, I believe, contact with Doe in the last few days. And it's not, I mean, she was like, when I came home, it was like she was a light bulb. Her mind was a light bulb, the way I saw it.
Stop.
No, it was really, and then she told me the story of how she,
Well, I was sending you texts throughout the morning.
yeah, but right, I was getting texts about it, about what we listened to in the tape.
What I listened to the tape first.
Right, right. But I had heard the first half, right? By then.
No, I listened to the tape first, and then we listened to it together.
When I came home that night.
We listened to the first bit of it together.
Yeah.
So I listened to it by myself first that
Right.
morning.
Right, right,
And then I said, we have to listen to it when you get home.
right.
Yeah. So we listened to the first.
So, I don't know how to even frame this conversation, but description of what Kathy experienced, but it was a combination of things with the content of the tape talking about Dorothy's dream and Andoty's dream and maybe referring to, I think, Alodi's dream one time and students expressing themselves on what it means to them. They're learning what it was that we would be experiencing when we experience the presence of our older member's mind with us physically in the room. I mean, I'm saying physically, not that we can see anybody.
But that's what happened to me.
Right,
As I saw Doe.
right,
Not completely. It was like lines being traced on a black background as I was going to sleep. I don't usually have like visions or 3D images in my brain. I usually just like think in, I don't like pictures, like an actual like looking at a picture. Like, so I don't like visualize like objects or whatever. My brain doesn't like think that way. So when I was seeing a 3D image of Doe in my mind, it was striking to me. And I actually, I think I said something to you when I woke up that morning. And then when
yeah.
before you left, I said I think I told you I was going to listen to the next tape.
Yes, that's right.
So because I wanted to listen to the next tape that was in order, and that is tape 258. So I started listening to it. And then Andoty talked about a dream that he had. And he dreamed that Doe was there with him in the highways of his mind. Doe asked him what the setting was, and Andoty said he wasn't quite sure, but then he said it was the highway. It was like the highways of my mind. And that's kind of like how it was for me too. But anyway, when Andoty said that Doe was there in his dream, I was like, oh my God. Because that had literally just happened to me the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was hearing Andoty saying that he had the very similar experience. So that was the first thing that happened that blew my mind.
And that's happened before for you as well.
I've had similar
Where,
instances
listening to a
where
tape right after you asked a certain question.
and things
and
happen,
all of a sudden,
but this was next level.
yeah.
To use that phrase that everybody uses it that way.
I believe it is.
And then so
It sounds like it to me.
there were other things that happened too, but I kind of lost my steam, so.
Well, does it have anything? Well, so what about what Doe said
Well, so
about the
like
light?
before the vision that I had of Doe, like I remember while I was seeing it, I thought I need to focus really hard so I can hear what he's going to say to me. Or I was thinking, what is he going to say? But he didn't say anything. And that made me I don't know how that. And then I went to sleep. Like I felt like I was thinking that, and Doe's face was appearing as I was going to sleep. So I wasn't like actually asleep. It wasn't a dream. And I told Sawyer about it in the morning, and then I told him, I was waiting for him to say something, but he didn't say anything.
Right.
And so later on, this wasn't like in chronological order of the revelations that I had while listening to tape 258, because I do believe that they are revelations. For whatever sense of that word. That so later on in the tape, Doe said, if I appear to you and I don't say anything, then ask me what is my interest, what are my wants, what are my why am I coming before you, why am I in your presence, and express that I want to do whatever my older member that is appearing to me wants me to do. What is he interested in? I want to know, because that's what I want to do. And so that was my answer for, he didn't say anything, and I felt bad. Like, why didn't he say anything to me? So he didn't say anything, but he did, because he just answered my question of why he didn't say anything in that tape 258. And that blew my mind.
When did he say that?
At the very end of it.
Oh.
Because I think it was Dorothy again that said, I want to, like, sometimes you're there, but what did he say exactly? It was at the very end of the tape. And he said, but it's quiet. I don't hear anything. That's what he said, but I don't hear anything. And Doe said, okay, well, if you don't hear anything, then ask, why am I there?
Now, some of this isn't going to make any sense hardly at all to someone that doesn't know the content of some of the previous tapes, specifically the one that was the lesson step that was considered to mean that you were sitting in the quiet room trying to feel the presence of Doe's mind with you. That was an exercise that Doe gave us. Right, so he would
feel the presence, but he wouldn't hear anything. He wouldn't hear him.
Right.
Yeah, and so he answered that question.
He showed his presence. I mean, and just that sends you a message that I'm with you right now,
so
I guess.
The other thing that happened during the tape was
the picture I get is from the Beyond Human series of the person that is Doe. And you're...
Right, that's what I said. That's what was...
Oh, okay.
That was the image that was appearing.
Right.
Before me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know if it was...
Well, Kathy frequently falls asleep with the video on of Doe talking in the Beyond Human tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
So Doe...
That's why I didn't... That's why I didn't know.
Giving you that back,
Yeah, that's why I didn't know if it was just something
right.
that, my brain was kind of...
Right.
I wasn't listening. I didn't have the video up then on my phone. And I don't typically watch it. I just turn it on and put the phone next to my head so I can hear it. So...
But that's not all there is to it.
Right, but so... I mean, and that's what I said to you. I didn't know if it was just an influence, and then you said, "Well, how did it make you feel? Did he say, what did he say?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I didn't, it's kind of blank." And then I said, "I'm going to listen to the tape," and then I listened to the tape, and it wasn't blank anymore. Because so much in that tape was speaking directly. Okay, so the other thing that happened was I was it was still dark out because it was early morning, and it was about 48 minutes into the tape when, prior to this, so the lights were on in the RV. We have a set of 3 lights in this front room here, and my face was turned towards the window and the blind was down. So I saw like a small little shadow cross the light, like maybe a moth or something is all I thought. I thought, oh, that's just a moth. And I kind of dismissed it, but I am leery of seeing shadows and shapes and whatever. Who knows? Because past experiences. But anyway, so I just kind of thought, well, maybe it was a moth. But then a little while later, all of the lights got blotted out by a flying shape. The first thought that jumped into my head was, is there a bat in here? And then all of a sudden, Doe said, what was that light?
In the tape, right.
In the tape, at the exact same second that I saw that shadow cross over all of the lights in the RV. And that totally freaked me out. It was as if Doe saw exactly what I saw at that exact moment. It totally, like, I lost my marble for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe it. And I sent Sawyer a text to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened as well. That really freaked me out. So imagine you're listening to just any kind of tape, whatever, and you see something and then a character in the tape goes, what was that? Like, that is like, I can't even like accurately like describe how that felt to me. It just totally, like I said to Sawyer, it felt like, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but it felt like, like when you're a baby and that soft spot on the top of your head. It felt like Doe had like stuck, I don't know, like his finger, his energy, just everything in there like all at 1 second, like boom. It was crazy.
Yes.
So then I just stopped the tape for a little while. And I did some stuff, whatever. And then later on in the day, I picked it up. And at the very end of the tape, Soroti is expressing that he saw a fog, a blue fog, which could have been from a blue light that was in the craft. But whatever. He saw a fog. And then Doe asked Doe was curious if Janotti had seen any colors throughout that meeting. And I thought that he was going to say, Kathy, what did you see throughout this meeting? And that's all I'll say for a little bit.
That was pretty amazing to me to hear, and like when you said that you felt like Doe like put his finger, she's not saying I don't think that she imaged that.
No,
but the idea was that's what you were experiencing happening, right? And Doe talked about in that tape how all we want to be, if we are headed towards his world, is fingers on the hand, different fingers on the hand. We don't want to have any differences. But when I heard that this time, each finger does have a difference. So it doesn't mean that each finger doesn't have its individuality. In fact, it's real individuality, except that's different from human individuality. But because of all the influences on humans, the Scarlet World, the space alien souls, their broadcasts of frequencies or however they do, like the movie They Live, that was kind of a pretty good movie to show that.
Really good movie. I think we bought it. I think we paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So like we have it. We can watch it.
But I think those things, the next level is working with the entire planet, everybody on it. And so recognizing more and more of their, uh, they help those that ask for them to help them. Because, and that's different, that's totally different the way it works with the lower forces. They tell you what you must do or what you should do or how to be better, and all these ways they tell you if you don't do this then you're not going to achieve success, and if you think this way or that way, and instead of saying, okay, what do you want? And I was talking about how he can't imagine getting any satisfaction, like if when the times that he was by himself and he was trying to feel T's presence, his older member T's presence, with him when she was outside her vehicle, her human vehicle that she had, and he would feel her presence sometimes very strongly, and as if he was there. He felt like she was there physically, even though he couldn't see her. But
Like her mind was occupying his body.
like her mind was occupying his body. Yes.
Well, and that's like that.
But as a
concept
separate
that
being.
Yeah.
Like as if he was sitting.
Two minds in one, or something like that. Like
Yeah.
he was talking about in the tape how if Doe is possessing T's mind, first, if the students are possessing Doe's mind, if Doe's mind is in the students, and then T's mind is in Doe, and then T's older member's mind is in T, all the chain goes all the way back to the Chief of Chiefs. Mm-hmm. So everybody is of one mind, which may sound kind of corny. Right. Corny.
Right.
Corny, and spiritualism.
It's the true meaning of one mind, but there's all kinds of individuals that are possessing that in degrees.
That one mind, yeah.
Yeah. And so they're all, and
so he gave me a little taste of, possessing my mind, and my mind possessing just the tip of his finger for a second.
And it's interesting.
And it was very overwhelming, and I was a little scared. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Like I told you, it was overwhelming because if you feel something like that, then you know.
In what way are you scared?
That it's like the truth and I'm not living how I should be.
Oh, that way. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. Right. Right, and then what thought did you get back when you thought that? Right.
Well,
you said
kept hearing "Be still."
Right.
I just kept hearing "Be still" when I would start freaking myself out and thinking that I was, just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
And I just kept hearing "Be still" and know that I am God.
Mm-hmm.
Be still and know that I am the Lord, thy God.
So he gave you the medicine.
And then we looked up that, and you said it was Psalm something. And
yeah, it's from Psalms.
So, and then I'm just gonna sit with that and just try to keep. I ordered the spheres, the chrome steel spheres, and I kind of tried to think about Doe sitting in the seat next to me in the car, but then I thought, should I be listening to this music? Should I be, getting into driving? But I don't think that's not the way that I'm supposed to be thinking about having my older member in the seat next to me. I mean, maybe it is, but that's incredibly personal stuff. So everybody has their own personal journey there.
That's what I was going to say, journey. Yes. So, well, I guess I should talk about this because Soyoti actually gave also in the tape you can hear me talking.
I think 3 times.
Maybe 3 times,
At
yeah.
least 2 times.
But one time, when I heard it the first time, I couldn't understand what I was saying. But it's partially because the volume's very poor for the students. And and Kathy explained to me what I said. and
Gaslighting.
yeah, right.
I'm just kidding.
No, but
'Cause I could have changed it.
but I remembered then
Yeah.
that when I was in the car with Doe and I was driving because we went someplace together. I think I drove us to a clothing store or something. I'm not sure what it was exactly. Oh wait, what was
That's not
it?
what you were talking
And we went
about
into
in
the
tape,
store and
though.
came back. Both of us went into the store and came
But
back.
that's not what you were
No,
talking about in the tape.
no, but I had that in my mind. I guess
That
maybe
was before?
I don't know if it was before. I don't know if it was or not, but no, I was
That was a
part of the program. I was wanting to think that literally Doe was going to be with me. I didn't even think of it as literally. I thought about it as wanting my older member's mind, wanting Doe's mind with me, okay, all the time. And we had a little sphere that we held on that represented that. And so I would drive to work. And we had a white Cadillac that originally was T and Doe's white Cadillac, and they passed it down to us when they got another car, and so I remember thinking, sitting in the seat, thinking that when I thought about having my older member sit with me in the car, all of a sudden I got a sense that it really happened. I didn't say it that way, I don't think, but I felt like I felt his presence. And I have felt that since then as well. So there is something actually that you feel that you can identify as being that you know that it's true, that you know it's real. It's like being on a telephone and the person picks up the phone and you know they're there.
Said that it was like when he and T were in the phone booth together or something, I guess.
Yeah.
They would call you guys on the phone booth or something.
Yeah, Doe said that he felt like it was when T wasn't in her vehicle, when he would feel her presence, he would reflect on the times when he and T were stuffed into a phone booth in the rain trying to make a call somewhere, and that he was that close with his older member, and they probably did that a number of times because they were traveling on the road for the first couple of years that they were together. But so let's see.
I think I saw the bride.
Oh, did you?
For that big old tent, they don't have a lot of people there.
You can see?
It doesn't look like.
Are the cars hidden from us? Do they park in the front there? Or maybe they had shuttles.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just talking. I know I can't.
Maybe they went to a church first and this is
No,
the
I
reception.
can't see a bunch of cars, but I'm just saying by the people that you can see. There aren't a lot of people there. Her parents spared no expense.
So T's mind, Doe describes how T's mind is a part of his mind. And it's really as simple as uh, thinking about things in the same way and with the same desire, with the same um, uh, desire to have their older member's mind guiding them in how they see things and how they say things and how they do things and what they do and when they do it and how attentive they are to um, how the rest of the world is receiving them, not in the worldly terms, they don't talk like that, but and it myself, which I don't think is necessary, but I can see that those thoughts are all highfalutin, but it comes down to how we treat each other, of course, and how we think and everything we experience in life in relationship to other humans. And in relationship, for the most part, with where we want to put our energy into. Of people that have been actually, stemming, cultivating humans to become their diplomats and their whatever they, even biological materials for, or who knows what. I wouldn't, those are the real ones that are to be afraid of, really, what they're doing, because they don't seem to have any kind of conscience.
More tape. The heck, those dogs. They be wilding out when their owners are gone.
You said chat, you think?
Oh, that too, but no, I said tape, more tape.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let me just look at the chat quick. Okay, let me see. Yeah, there is. Why can't I?
258. That was the tape.
So
258.
Warrior of Truth says, "Wow, I don't doubt would we interact with lower forces pertaining to wants, desires like success, getting married, learning a skill, etc. Or does the next level grant us these?" I think it's both. I could be wrong, and if in the way that I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm wrong on some of it. I'm not
Well,
going to
yeah,
get into that.
sometimes
But
Doe said they'll give you what you want, what
right,
you think you need, just to show you that you in fact don't. That's not what you.
right. An example of that is
And then you got to get out of it.
right. What you get into in the human kingdom, you have to get out of. So if you become attached to all the satisfactions in the human kingdom, then then you won't get out of them to where you will be on the road to getting the satisfaction from your older member.
That's right.
But that comes all in degrees, and that can happen simultaneously. Though I think those things can happen to where everybody's getting potential lessons on whether they act on them or not. I guess is the bottom line, but and how they act on them. And so anyway, I shouldn't get into that because I'm not equipped to really talk about it anyway. But but the next level does grant us. Yes, they give us the lessons as well. They give us the opportunity to become the best human we can become, um, and then uh, and then to get out of it, like Kathy was saying. And they talked about it as being like 6 grades in school, like 12 grades in school, to where the first 6 you're getting into the human kingdom. And so during that time, you'll get married and you'll have families and you'll
become alcoholics.
yeah, become alcoholics, right? And
Whatever you get into,
right.
it doesn't matter. It's how you get out of it.
You form all these addictions and all these, and you build yourself
I just
into
said that
something.
because that's what I did. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be so flippant about that.
Well, but it's okay. I didn't take it, that you've
But I
been
mean, if
disrespectful
anybody
to
else,
the process
if anybody, but
or the difficulty from it.
right, or making light of being alcoholic, because I struggled with it from the time of 21 probably to 44. So
Yeah, so
I
that's
speak from experience. And
yeah.
I
That's
do not proclaim myself an alcoholic because I am not.
right.
I was, but I am no longer.
That's right.
I haven't drank in probably, well, at least 4 years because that's how long we've been together. Almost. In August, it'll be 4 years. October, really, is 4 years. But we met. Anyway, I hadn't drank, I think, at least a year before I met you, too. So it's been at least 5 years since I drank.
So the second and sixth grades in this 12 grade school, the way that T and O talked, they briefly mentioned this. You know, they didn't go into all kinds of details. Uh, uh, were to get out of the human kingdom. In other words, so in other words, let's say you get attached to alcohol in one lifetime, okay, and you get out of it, okay, then you've accomplished that grade in school. But there might be like 4 or 5 things that each grade can accomplish. I don't know what the actual numbers are. I think that's what they said. I never really tuned into what 4 or 5 things they were. That were, you know, that everything kind of boils down to. But I know that, our well, our attachment to families uh, is one big one. You know, it's the human family, and the next level builds in ways of um, not letting helping us wean us from that. When people, in my opinion, by people dying and things like that, and and having hardships is also a part of it too. But also, I think. Well, that's one. That's all sensuality, actually, all in one category of sensuality that sexuality is a part of. Because sexuality is all about reproduction, right? That's what the biology tells us. Not that, you know, that biology doesn't have an equivalent in some way relationship with the mentality. So, you know, that because we form habits, of course, and we form addictions to everything. uh, Probably under the sun
Yeah.
to degrees, right?
Yeah.
And so that so each lifetime doesn't necessarily. I don't know. I'm not saying how many lifetimes anybody has to have. Uh, I mean, there is probably a limit that the
Until
next
you
level.
learn your lesson.
Yeah. Well, so the next level stimulates things. They even stimulate things like AIDS.
That was talking about in that tape.
Yeah, to advance people, give people the opportunity to have restraint, because the next level is all about restraint.
Well, and they also talked about if AIDS was influences. I mean, the next level allows everything because they are in control of everything.
Right.
Right. That's what we're going from.
Well, control meaning
Because
that
didn't Jamodi bring that up as far as
Yeah.
like if AIDS was influences? I thought he was talking about cancer being in
I
and
thought he
like if
said the
then
word AIDS. We didn't go back and listen to that, didn't we?
we did though, and he did say AIDS. So
Oh, okay.
because I thought he was talking about cancer, but it would apply. Both would apply. That AIDS, but that AIDS was influences specifically for targeted at that time towards specific people. Right?
Yeah,
Like
like
it
Doe
was
said, there was something
primarily
like
in
a
the
switch of some
homosexual
sort.
community.
Do you remember that part? He was trying to describe
Somewhat.
some kind of a switch or twist. He used the word twist in I should go back and get that because, or somebody else can do it if you can, and send it to me if you any time you find anything. that's their exact words that you want to, send me. I'd like to see it. I'm not actually asking for that though. I'm just saying, because we have all the material. But I mean, bringing something up that we could talk about, that's a good part of that.
Right.
Did Doe ever talk about the weather and if it holds any significance to the recycling or class?
That's a good question.
Yeah, well, the heavens being part of the weather system, and and actually having cycles, effects. The astrology, I believe, was given to humans by the next level because they give everything to the humans. And even if the way they do it might be through the space alien souls that have certain experiences with different things on a human level, but influencing them, but at the same time providing them with such beliefs and things that the stars
But
are
like
affecting us.
earthquakes and stuff.
Yeah, well, they always saw the earthquakes as a sign of
I don't know if earthquakes
the
is
end.
considered weather though.
No, it's not really weather,
Not
not
really.
that we know about,
So that would be
right?
like
Maybe it is,
tornadoes.
though.
So like tornadoes, hurricanes. That's weather.
Well, they said that tornadoes, they felt like the next level used tornadoes to help accelerate people to having some fresh choices, some
And to
new
move
choices.
people out of areas, right?
Yeah, to get, well, not just, I think both, yeah. Well, maybe both. I don't know. I don't know if it was determined that the location was a problem, but them staying in that location is what the implication was, I believe,
Yeah.
because they weren't growing in that area. They were stagnating or going backwards, I would imagine would be the only choices.
But I think I remember, I may be remembering it wrong, that they were talking about, like when a tornado hits if a tornado wipes out your house 3 times in a row, it may wait a year or 2 years or whatever, but then a tornado comes through the same area, like that's an indication that that's an area to move from.
Right, right. They talked about that, like especially with New Orleans and the way that you're going to constantly get hurricanes there.
In the Gulf? Well, I
Uh,
don't know if they said the Gulf. Well, that is
yeah,
the Gulf, right? New
yeah,
Orleans.
the Gulf,
Duh.
right, right, right. So that
I
includes
was
Florida
thinking,
too, right?
and I was thinking of Houston, Texas, because Texas is being affected by a lot of tornadoes.
See, because the next level is working with a big time frame that we don't understand. So they're giving us,
Can't even
they're
comprehend
telling
it.
us right from the beginning to watch. These are the signs, and so you'll see an escalation in earthquakes. You'll see an escalation in the sun's heat, even because it talks about that in Revelation 16. I think um, it was funny the other day. I was hearing the broadcast about that the Antarctica ice on one part of Antarctica was uh, growing,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was and so they were like
For like the
puzzled over
first
it.
time in recorded history, it's grown. It's gained mass.
Right.
It like loses mass and then gains it back, which it's done, but this time it's gained more back than it ever has.
And I kept on having thoughts that the next level might do something to or who knows to show humans that they're in control of the planet.
Yeah.
And if they want ice to grow, they're going to have ice grow. And if they want the ice to diminish for a period of time, then they're going to put that into motion. The humans aren't going to affect it
I just saw
at
this
all.
report that get ready for the most intense auroras for the next 50 years.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't read the
Supposed to
article,
be
but
electromagnetic.
yeah, geomagnetic and all kinds of, yeah, whatever.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
And the poles are shifting.
Right.
The
Whatever
poles
that
are
looks like.
geographically shifting, so
I don't know
whatever
what that looks like.
I don't know what that means either. They always do. They like, I guess they wander all the time, but I guess they're like, it's not like a wandering. They're shifting.
Well,
It
there's,
depends on what alarmist you want to watch, listen to,
we,
follow.
Doe knew that there were cycles.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
something that he knows without a doubt, because he's part of the crews that are monitoring and putting things into effect and
Yeah.
stimulating things, and working with all those things to do the best job they can do with what they have to do, and to make this planet into what it is, to keep it going in the way it is, and recycle it when it gets too messed up, like the way that humans have destroyed, with all the chemical outputs that they put into the seas, and killed off too many of the fish and the radioactive stuff. And but you know what? I saw a thing about Chernobyl today
Oh yeah.
that was really interesting, and
Mhm.
they put cameras all over the place over there, and they started to see that the wildlife was coming back, and all kinds of animals, and they seemed to they were strong, they were really thriving. So I thought, well, maybe a little bit of radioactivity, which confirmed what Tiendo said, that a little bit of radioactivity isn't necessarily a negative,
But it
even
does
though,
cause cells. It does cause mutations.
right,
So
and
if those
bad stillbirths.
so
And
are those animals moving in from other areas? Like how long have they been there?
I didn't see any more details about it
I
than
want
that.
to know. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, so I'll look that up and watch more about it.
Except I start school, I think on March or May 19th. I can't even talk. I'm like,
Right, Kathy's we're gonna both be going down the road,
yeah.
but Kathy's the primary that's got.
Sawyer may have to take my trigonometry and calculus classes.
Oh boy, I don't want to do that. I didn't go that far in my math. I got to geometry and I was bored with trying to memorize theorems and axioms, and it was like, you gotta be kidding. I was dressed in a big long army trench coat, canvas trench coat, walking around all with, in West Virginia, in a hoedown town, high on whatever I could get high on.
In 1971 or something.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna, get into. I flunked all my classes, and maybe not all of them, but
You weren't going past geometry.
didn't even go to them.
You did not consider your future girlfriend
Right,
would need those skills.
right.
Because I sure the bleep am not
I should have
taking
known better than to
calculus.
to be
Why you need to know calculus to be an artificial intelligence?
unless you're doing coding maybe, or then I could see there's probably plenty of math that they use.
I ain't doing that.
For like determining the size of the face and
I ain't doing no
all,
math.
all that stuff. But if you're not actually coding it,
Nah.
and I don't know if these days they have actual applications. I haven't tried to figure out the applications that they use and how to use them, and to actually build things.
Yeah, I don't want to do any of that. I just want to do.
I'd like to build a next level story. Or
We're
two.
going to.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to learn from Kathy going to school. At the same time, I know there's people putting out all kinds of courses on it online. I see one.
I'm gonna learn the job options.
Yeah.
I've done some research.
Yep.
Anyway, what's going on in the chat?
Anyway, so Joseph Coates says, did Doe ever talk about the weather? Oh, I already read that already.
But do you think that we
Covered it?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to search the tapes for any kind of talk on that, because I don't know that I've specifically heard anything in the 500 or so that I've listened to.
Well, I gave a few examples.
Yeah, we've heard some stuff, but I am,
Well, there's a weather lab. Alodi
oh yeah,
painted
that's right.
the weather lab. It was part of the meeting script
There you go.
they wrote. And this is when T and Do were
Oh,
both
that's
in
what
their
that
vehicles.
sound is. They're doing the parade, the golf cart parade.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep talking.
Yes, of
You can
course.
point out the big effects, though.
If I see a bunch of candy getting thrown out, I'm running out there. No, I'm just kidding. I don't run.
No.
I'd
And
be
you don't-
terrible in an apocalypse.
You might find one piece of candy that's good.
I know. I have to give the rest away. All the other kids out.
Hmm. But
Oh my gosh,
anyway,
I hear that.
so Alodi painted. Okay, there was a script that T and Do gave the task of 3 students to write. And those students were Dan Sodi and Alodi and Kododi. And Kododi had been to film school, and Dan Sodi probably had been to film school, and Alodi was an artist. So Alodi painted illustrations with oil and a lot, and
Did you say airbrushing too?
he used airbrushing as well, but that's oil too, I think.
It's a different style. It's
He's got tips that can spray it out in a little thin stream, That he did the Rings of Saturn with the oil brush, oil painting, oil. I don't know if he did the whole thing with it, but no, the airbrush. So he painted 13 illustrations,
I think I see Buttercup.
but he did other things after I left. So I don't know what the total number is of Alodi's paintings, but Alodi also copyrighted them as Oliver Odenwood, and Oliver has 2 L's in it. Anyway, for the movie script, because they were bringing it to, they were trying to get to Stanley Kubrick, but
There's an R in there.
they went through what was his name? I forgot his name now.
Cadoti?
No, Kododi had a relationship with the documentary writer. Kirsch was the last name.
Oh, well, that you were trying to remember.
Gary Kirsch, maybe. And he was working in Hollywood, and so they shopped the movie script with the illustrations to, Kododi did, to Gary Kirsch. If his name was Gary, I'm not sure. But they weren't. Nothing came from it. I don't know what they said back because I wasn't part of that committee, and it wasn't reported to me. But so in that 13 illustrations, one of them was the weather lab, which the picture was as if you were in a big, like Star Trek kind of spacecraft, where big, windows, and you could see members, like wearing like a one-piece suit, standing there in front of the screen, being the swirling clouds of a hurricane. I think it's a hurricane. I don't know. Maybe it's a tornado, but I think the idea was it was a hurricane, and because they were the weather lab, they were a laboratory that was designed.
Like the Earth in the center of the room.
There was in that picture.
Or that's a different picture.
That's a different picture.
That's the Earth lab.
That's the Earth lab, which even has an atmosphere as part of the inside of the Pluto, as depicted. But they said that this was.
That's what the Earth lab was in Pluto. Theorized.
It was fiction. They were saying this was fiction based on the truth. So in other words, the next level has laboratories that can be as big as planets. So they know that. So they're not saying that Pluto is such a laboratory for the Earth lab. And then the spacecraft that was the weather lab that they were depicting doesn't mean it's the only spacecraft. Doesn't mean it's the only.
What's that guy?
It doesn't mean it's part of a planet size.
They're gonna bury him. We can dump our poop.
We'd fill those up in a week or two, 3, 4 maybe. Anyway, but
Right.
so the next level. Um,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
no, that's good. Whatever.
I'm getting distracted.
I'm getting tired too, so I've got to go to bed by 8 or 9. So
I'm sorry.
no, I'm going to be ready.
You're making the money, the big money, though. You're showing
Well,
me
it's my
up.
turn.
It is your turn. It's true. And it'll be my turn on Monday. I do have to take Wednesday off because that's my couple school meetings, so we'll have to switch up.
Okay.
But we were talking about going up north on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So then we'll both take Tuesday off and then you can work Wednesday.
Okay. All right. I guess because coming back really late, how do you get up to work on Wednesday?
Right. We'll
So
figure it out.
unless I work the late shift on Wednesday
We'll figure it out.
and just and then
We gotta wait to go up there until we have.
just gradually get back up early
Well,
again.
We'll wait to go up there until we can afford to take 2 days off. in a row.
We're working out our schedule here.
This is the conversations that we normally have.
Yeah, except
Well, we talk about other stuff too.
we do. Anyway, okay, so significance of the weather towards the recycling of or the class
Yeah,
and
there you go.
towards the recycling, I think not really, not that I can remember. Like they didn't say that there were going to be tsunamis or even though
Cataclysmic flooding,
yeah, I didn't get any.
amplified weather events.
They didn't feel like they didn't talk about stuff like that. They spent very little time on the whole idea of recycling. It just meant that it was an end of a cycle, and that they were gonna they had ways of fixing the atmosphere pretty quickly. I think they thought, but at one point Doe didn't know if they're going to use it as a garden again. He said in the Beyond Human tapes whether they would what they would do with the space junk from the civilization. He wondered about that. So that's something, and
There's a lot of space junk up there.
yeah, there's a lot of space junk up there. It looks like
Oh, did that thing crash into the planet yet?
I don't know, Cosmos thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I didn't
Does
watch that
anybody
one.
know?
It's the Cosmos thing.
Let us know.
Good luck, Miss Kathy, says Old School Dave.
Thank you. I'm scared.
About school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work. They expect you to do a lot. And most of it you probably don't need to do.
I'm pretty sure my first semester is going to be light though because it's summer, and that Pell Grant will cover all of it. So if I do f up and fail catastrophically, I won't owe any money. So that's a benefit. If I continue into the second year, then there can be repercussions if I have to actually take out a loan. The Pell Grant won't cover the classes.
Some illustrations, Warrior of Truth, you can find online of the illustrations I was talking about. But I don't know how many. Like some were published in a book that was called by the New York
You
Post
can find all. I think you can find
called
all.
The Cult, maybe it was called. Or maybe that's what it was called. I don't know.
They're
But
not on the Heaven's
they're
Gate
black and
website?
whites, I think.
They're not on the Heaven's Gate website.
I don't know if they are.
Are they on Ricoti's website that you can?
You might
access?
find some on Ricoti's old website that's in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, you have to access the Wayback Machine to find that. It's Right to Know.
Yeah, Right to Know.
But
You might find them
I
there.
think that It is difficult to get, but you have to be creative with your Google search terms. Like, you can't put Heaven's Gate paintings in there or Heaven's Gate member paintings because it doesn't come up right. You have to. I'm trying to remember. You got to play around with the keywords, but you can find them through a Google search. You might even try putting in Allodi Heaven's Gate member painting, something like that. Allodi is spelled Ollody, in case you didn't know that.
And that's Oliver Odenwood.
It's nice to do it on Google because then there's like all of them. And how many did you say there is? There's like 12.
13 or
Okay.
More, maybe.
I don't think all of them you can find online, but you can find a decent amount that'll whet your curiosity. Or at least it did mine for a moment.
Yeah, we're being sued, so we can't, I don't know what we can do with them. Maybe we can. It's it's a matter. I mean, fair use,
I don't see
for
why
free.
I mean, I don't.
I mean, they're gonna make a movie with them. Maybe that's why they don't want them to be spread around. But they're not doing it. What the heck?
Well,
Give them to somebody. They
Well,
can still make a movie with them.
I suppose you could email Mark and I wouldn't. I
Then
don't
people
know.
would know that that's where they came from.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
The movie
because
script.
we asked to see all of them, and they wouldn't show them. I don't know why. I think it's just spite, honestly. And if anybody was to email Rep at Heaven's Gate, which is Mark and Sarah, and ask, can I see all of the paintings that Allodi did because I want to see them, then they'll just say, well, why are you asking? Did Sawyer and Kathy ask you? And if you share them with Sawyer and Kathy, then we'll sue you. Or, I mean, it's just like this whole huge, horrible thing.
I don't know what they'd do.
When people just maybe, like, I just want to see the paintings because I just want to see the paintings.
Yeah, they're
Not
nice.
because I want to, like, do anything, like, but they won't show us anything.
But there's
They won't
probably
show
some
anybody
people
anything.
in this stream that can tell you how to do it. But don't do it in the chat if you don't mind.
Well, it's not against their copyrights to say where you can find those paintings. It's not like we're saying find those paintings and then steal them and do something with them. If anybody did that, that's on them. We're getting sued for the shirt that I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, shirt of the older member.
For taking one of
That's one of those paintings
and putting them on shirts. That's what we're getting sued for. So
yeah.
I think if we were, distributing these just pictures, they can't do anything. Can't do anything that anybody doing.
For free, yeah.
Right.
Because then it's
But
fair
since
use.
we sold some,
Yeah. Yeah.
and got
Well, you still have to prove that
rich.
in court.
We got totally
they-
rich off,
It's not fair the way the courts work. We know that.
the
Boy,
few
do we know
shirts
that
we sold.
now more than ever, right?
Well, we haven't had a ruling in almost a year now, so it's a blessing and a curse.
Joseph Coates has a sticker.
I probably sent them to you.
Yeah. That has something from it, from Allodi. And he puts it on, he looks at it often. Yeah, well, those images, T and Doe were working with Allodi.
Yeah, they're really
So,
powerful.
if he didn't get the face right or the ear right on the older member, Doe, T or Doe would have said something about it. Because they were going by their sense of their connection with their older member's mind. And so we probably got a pretty good depiction of what one of the kind of vehicles looks like. The eyes aren't so big that you could fall into them, and and the ear isn't huge either, but it's got an edge to it
And
to
they're
catch
using,
the
like,
ear.
a teeny tiny image. Oh, here comes the parts. On the Heaven's Gate actual website. So so small you can barely even see it.
Yeah.
The older member, the image that you're talking about right now.
Right, and he's got a very
we
pleasant little
We
smile.
made nice.
You don't see
you know,
teeth because they don't have teeth.
We made nice big shirts. Do it quick. Hurry and give it back to me. So that's like nice big
No.
images that people can see, not some tiny little blip, some little square on a website. Okay, give me my shirt back. Give me my shirt back. Babe, before all the cards come.
Okay. So that's
So we felt that it was, good to get that image out.
right.
There they are.
At the time, Kathy and I were going wherever we were going. Kathy was jumping out and either putting something on the telephone pole or
We have
you know,
flyers that we wanted
flyers
to put
and
up,
posters
that were
and-
posters that you guys had put up.
yeah, and then taping them on there and then going
And
and
there's
doing.
nothing wrong with that.
We did that around here.
I don't know if we did it around here, but we did it in Elkhart and we did it in.
Oh, we didn't do it around here.
I don't think we did it around
I
here.
thought we did.
We did some in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
That's what I meant.
Gotcha. There's the
Oh yeah.
throwing all the candy.
What happened in that mind?
There's gonna at least be 200.
Let's see if there's anything
There's
else in
Bear
the chat.
Buttercup. There's Bear Buttercup. Buttercup's on the back.
Okay.
Oh, they had a jam. There's a traffic jam.
Oh boy. We're
Sorry.
getting. And this is like a sport.
It's a tradition. Every Saturday night, that's the running of the golf carts, and everybody gets in golf carts, and they do this, and you can hear their horns. They got trailers hitched up. There's coolers. There's legs hanging out. Beers. Trailers hitched up. There's coolers. There's legs hanging out. Beers being drank. American flags. They
Yeah.
throw out candy.
Yes, it is mental, J.K. Kant, but it's understandable that it's happening because
Well, who wants the information to be hidden?
well, right. Who wants the information? And that
Who
reminds
doesn't
us,
want the information to get out?
right? Who would want not the information to get out?
The lower forces.
Now, some could say, well, not in that way and that speed or something, make it into something that
Sure, but
they can-
ultimately that, and or
not all at once
it
is what they're
it's nobody's
saying.
job to say who can share the information.
Right. It's the next level
Nobody
job.
was given the task to police everybody else that wants to share T&Do's information.
No, there's no evidence of that.
And if we screw it up, then that's something that we're gonna have to pay for when we meet with T&Do in the next level.
And they say, how come you didn't
Nobody
share our
else can
information?
judge us.
How come you went against us?
So
And at that point,
Mark
the
and
person's
Sarah
going
don't
to
need
think,
to be concerned with if we share the information properly or not. That's not their judgment. That's not their call.
yep,
There was not as many carts as I expected.
it's a good painting, yeah, as well. Okay. Beyond
that-
Human, right? That's
Salvador
the
Dali's
audio
also.
the videotapes that Doe made, series of 12 of them, and there was something that you just talked about that stimulated another thought from the tape.
I know.
What was it again? That Mark and Sarah, that the tapes should be available. You're gonna have to answer to them. You're gonna have to answer to them to the next level. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Right, but
I don't think that was it though. It was something else because I picked up on it too, but we'd have to rewind the live stream
all right, never mind.
because that we forget.
I mean, I like a little bit of sports, but only when I'm like streaming or something, just not streaming. I mean, just going through shorts or reels, and
Like highlights.
yeah, I like for some reason whenever I get to the boxing match, for some reason I look at it and I think I'm just like attracted to it, wanting to see it. Not that I'm approving of it or anything, I don't know. It's kind of barbaric, but I don't know if it's because Tiendo talked about our boogers as being a boxing match. But anyway, I think it's just from my genes, that I probably had that growing up in this vehicle. But I like sports growing up, but I wasn't allowed to play soccer because they said I had a heart murmur.
What's going on in the chat? We ready to wrap up?
Oh, somebody's saying you've frozen.
What's after that?
Joseph says, I always feel like I am learning something new each time I listen to Beyond Human.
Nice. So you're not frozen, because then they wouldn't have just heard that.
Yeah, so I guess
For a little while.
we're going to probably talk about this tape a number of times because there's a lot in it. So for those that just join me, it's tape 258. And so, good night, folks.
Good night. I really thought there was going to be a lot more